Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Celebrating 100 years, Mount St. Mary's University LA is dedicated to moving your life and career forward. Earn your undergraduate or graduate degree and become unstoppable. Find out how at msmu.edu.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are back in the National League Championship Series for the 17th time in franchise history and the 6th time with manager Dave Roberts, the only African-American manager in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers scored on an error in the 11th inning to beat Philadelphia 2-1 and win the best-of-5 series. The Dodgers will play Milwaukee or the Chicago Cubs in the NLCS, which begins Monday. Milwaukee and the Cubs have a decisive Game 5 Saturday in Milwaukee. For the first time in LeBron's 23-year career in the NBA, he will miss a regular season opener. The 40-year-old LeBron has inflammation in the sciatica nerve, a nerve that stretches from the lower back to the legs and feet. LeBron will be out at least 3 to 4 weeks. He will miss the Lakers' regular season opener October 21st against Golden State. The Lakers have played 134 games without LeBron, winning only 41% of those games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Bad times are coming and I reap what I done sow. Hey, hey. Well, let me tell you something, all that glitters ain't gold. It's been a long old troublesome road, and I'm looking for somebody come and help me carry this load. I need dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need dollar, 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 that's what I need. Well, I don't know if I'm walking on solid ground, 'cause everything around me is falling down. And all I want is someone to help me. I had
KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dominique DePrima, and it's time for Freedmen Friday. We do this every Friday around here. And here's the crazy thing I realized, Miles, it has been 2 years since we started this. We've been doing it every single week for 2 years on Fridays. And It's been very productive. We've met a lot of people, and our goal here is to make sure we know what's going on, make sure we educate ourselves and one another. Shoot, I'm sure I would be a lot less informed about reparations if it wasn't for Freedmen Friday, because I try to stay on top of stuff, read stuff. I meet all of these interesting people. So Governor Gavin Newsom has until Sunday. Some people say Monday, but we think it's Sunday to either sign or veto or ignore and allow to become law all of the bills that are on his desk, including those that have to do with reparations. And so today we're doing something special on Freedmen Friday. We're going to have kind of one opinion in this hour. Next hour we'll have another opinion, and then you guys make up your own minds. You probably, maybe you already do have them made up, but maybe you'll hear something that will change your perspective, because I would like for you to weigh in. At least let the governor know we're thinking about this, we care about this. Call him, write to him, post on your socials. Let's make sure that we don't just let this deadline come and go. We're being joined now by the Associate Director and co-founder of the California Black Power Network, where he supports a team of organizers, policy experts, and communicators. Their goal is to build Black political power, the power needed to transform living conditions for Black Californians. Before launching the California Black Power Network, as a project manager at California Calls, he worked with various grassroots organizations and diverse communities throughout California to build multiracial, multi-generational, and multi-issue coalitions. Kevin Cosney, welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm blessed. It's been a long time. You were on quite some time ago, but it's been a minute, and a lot of things have happened since then in the reparations space.
It sure has. Time has flown by. It felt like yesterday, but I appreciate you having me back on and having such important conversations, from the special election conversation with Miss Bill earlier, and this very important conversation now. So appreciate being here.
Yeah. So far, what I'm seeing, just in other areas, is that the governor is talking real progressive or liberal on steroids on Twitter, but his actions are not matching that. And right now we do have some reparations bills on the table, part of the road to repair, I guess is what they call it, right? And some of them are more controversial than others, but you have been urging people to weigh in, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's critical for our folks to be engaged at this moment.
Yeah. So no matter where you are on it, you feel like it's important. It makes a difference. The reason I'm saying that, maybe I'm feeling discouraged because I and a lot of other folks weighed in on 715, and the governor signed, urging him to vote no, and he signed it anyway.
I think that it's important for us to show up. Yeah. Right. Sometimes we take some losses, sometimes we get some wins, but we can't do nothing.
Yeah.
That's right. That's how you lose up front. It's not playing at all.
Yeah, right. You pre-lose, and I should know that because we've been talking a lot about how folks are preemptively surrendering in a lot of areas. So let's go through what's on the table and get your take on it. I think we'll start from the bottom, because I usually start from the top and run out of room. From the bottom, I mean higher numbers. Well, and starting with the Senate, SB 518 is one of the ones that's been quite controversial. This would establish a Bureau of Descendants of American Slavery. So it's Weber Pearson. In a way, it's bringing back the Stephen Bradford bill that folks really wanted passed, but in a way it's not, because it's not called the Freedmen's Bureau. It's the Bureau of Descendants of American Slavery. It would be housed in the Justice Department, and it would be a bureau rather than an agency. What are your thoughts on SB 518?
Well, to your point, it is something that folks were asking for and pushing for a lot in the last cycle. And I think it's important to have a structure that can really oversee this process and make sure that Black folks are getting what they need. You and I talked about this last time we talked, and there's nuance to it, right? How do we make sure that it's in the right hands? How do we make sure that we are being good stewards, right, of the resources that are going into this? And what's in the name, right? I'm maybe less concerned about the naming of it, but more so about the functioning of it. And I want to say that there was a lot of conversation about where it would be housed. I believe that actually made a shift to take it out of the Department of Justice and put it into the Civil Rights Department, because there were a lot of concerns and many concerns that we shared and voiced and worked with the author on to make sure that the information of Black folks or descendants that were being engaged in this process were protected. And right, that the Department of Justice has its own hands in the harm of Black Californians. And so we knew there was a bit of a conflict there. And so, yeah, I think there was a lot of effort to make sure that that was also placed in the right department, and they did make some moves.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that shift. That's awesome. I was actually planning to vote for it anyway, even if it was in the DOJ, although I didn't love that.
That's right.
So I'm glad to know that detail. I think there is something to the name. People, because it's not just a name, it indicates the fact that the legislature seems to have worked with ADOS as opposed to other sort of lineage-based or other reparations groups, California-based groups, seem to take offense to that, which is understandable.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I think you maybe recall our stance that we have been pushing for something more expansive, understanding that the human rights violations that Black people suffered have not just been solely targeted on "quote unquote" descendants. So I think we, I think I understand and share some of those sentiments. I think this is also an important step forward, right? And I think there's always opportunities to refine once we have things in place. But having something in place is critical, as we all know.
Well, I mean, especially if you look at the fact that last time, one of the few bills that did get to the governor's desk, by last time I mean last summer, a year ago, when the governor didn't get a lot of stuff on his desk that we wanted there, his excuse for not signing the return of land bill was that there was no agency. So we,
right.
that would take away that excuse.
That's right. And again, we said it then that was a cop-out, right? There could have easily been some ways where we had placed that somewhere else until the agency or bureau was set up. But absolutely, right? I think having that certainly takes that excuse away and gives us some type of power to continue to make sure we're monitoring and moving other recommendations, right? The hundreds of recommendations that came from the task force.
Yeah. Okay. This is, I think, it leaves something, right? It leaves something. What do I mean? It leaves something. We've had a task force. We've had a lot of bills fail. It's a tangible outcome, a tangible monument, if you will, to the fact that California is moving on reparations, even in the face of what's happening on the national landscape. That's how I see it. But what do you say to people who say this actually could be a setback for us because it's not an agency, it's just a bureau?
Again, I think progress is progress. A step forward is a step forward. I couldn't see it as a step backwards. I think that it is, again, moving us in the right direction. And to your point, in this moment, I think this type of reparative work is critical. And oftentimes folks try to deprioritize it given the quote unquote moment. But I think it's specifically, right, this history that we have not dealt with that's led and fed this moment. And so I think it is important that we are taking those steps and that we're not just sending all cap tweets out to the president, but are actually moving things for Californians, particularly for Black Californians that have been most impacted, and also show up hardest, right, when it comes to these this larger moment.
Yeah. We're talking to Kevin Cosney, and it's California Black Power Network. We continue this conversation. We'll focus on SB 437, perhaps the most controversial of the bills on the governor's desk, which requires the California State University to research and report on scientific methodology to figure out the genealogical fingerprint for individuals for the purpose of verification as a descendant of an enslaved person. Controversial. We'll look at that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report scams, and update your software. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information and fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. Start your protection today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
It does, and we're talking with Kevin Cosney, somebody who has actually been part of this process through his organization in working with the California Reparations Task Force, the pioneering California Reparations Task Force, which really has set off an incredible domino effect all across the country. Is one of the things I try to track. He's the associate director and co-founder of the California Black Power Network, and you guys were involved with the mobilizing the community around weighing in on the California Reparations Task Force. Wanted to put that on the table along with the other work that you have done. So let's talk about SB 437. This is a study. A lot of folks, the critique is that it can drag on indefinitely. It could be a poison pill, stopping other reparations bills and programs from moving forward by saying, oh, the study's not done. And as far as I can see, doesn't have a sunset.
That's right. As you mentioned, it is one of the more controversial bills that have been put forth around reparations. And again, yet another important one, which is why I think it is controversial and deserves a lot of attention and vigilant eyes. I think one of the biggest critiques that we always hear about this is it's another study. And we've done enough studying. We know what our folks have gone through. But I want to point out that this would be a different study than what the Reparations Task Force went through. And they notably and have uplifted the fact that there are some pieces that they did not, they were not able to work out. And while they identified descendancy and lineage as an eligibility for particularly the compensation portion of reparations, they did not strictly define that, nor did they dictate how that would be determined. And so there are some things that are left undone, right, from the task force, and they did a lot of work, tremendous amount of work. And so I think that this is a different study and an important one, because there are some unanswered questions of how exactly does one prove that? What is that process? How do we support that process? And so I think there's a lot of important pieces to the study that are different. I think there are some things that we were advocating for. I think, again, this was another area similar to SB 518 that ourselves and the Alliance for Reparations, Reconciliation, and Truth advocated for, similar as we negotiated the shift into the Justice Department. We also, away from the Justice Department into the Civil Rights Department. We were working with the author here to make sure that data, again, was protected, right? And that, again, our folks could have a level of privacy to make sure that data wasn't shared out with folks who would seek to do us harm, particularly in this era, in this moment. I think other places that we're advocating for, maybe with some moderate success, was around relying on community-based organizations and genealogical organizations that have done this work. While the state necessarily doesn't have some of the expertise here and the knowledge that the study is working to get, there are many folks that have done this work at various levels, and we think that expertise is valuable and important to be included.
But why not just have the agency or bureau get their experts? Why do we have to have this endless university study and divert money away from a reparations agency or direct service or benefit of reparations programs? Well, it seems to me a way of delaying, kicking the can down the road so the governor doesn't have to, have his presidential campaign derailed. This seems like exactly what he was trying to push Bradford to amend one of his bills with, and now it's turned up as a bill. I don't trust it. I don't, and I admire the work that you've done as far as shaping the bill and helping to protect people's privacy. But is there a sunset clause?
I think that is something that we need to push for and be vigilant on, to be quite honest.
But it's on his desk. It's too late for that, isn't
Sure.
it? I mean, if you pass it open-ended, why would they later add a sunset clause?
Well, I think that there's an interest for many sides, right, to wrap this up and move it along and tie it up, right? Obviously, Black folks, we've been waiting for too long. For the state, to your point, right, funding an endless study doesn't help anyone as well.
It helps the governor.
So I think
it helps him avoid being labeled as a guy who gave us reparations.
I don't know if that's necessarily, I think that could go both ways, right? I think and the conversation we've been having across the country is we need other state support in this, because if this man, which we know, wants to run for president, how are you going to go to other Black communities across the country when you did not show up for Black Californians? How are you going to show up and gain the votes of Black North Carolinians if you're not able to help the Eaton Fire victims in Medina and move reparations here in this state, right? How are you going to show up and gain support of Black folks? And we know that in other areas across the country, the Black vote is critical to the map to the White House. And so I think there's some other strategy, right, that we need to engage in on a national front to continue to pressure Governor Newsom and really other governors that have reparations that they're on their desk and presidential ambitions in their eyes. And so I think those pieces are going to be critical. I do think that there's always opportunities for us to follow up and amend things, whether it's around funding or whether it's around sunsetting. And, to your other point, right, in a similar manner, right, folks would make this argument about the task force itself. Why do we need this big study when we know what's happened to us? There's books out there, read a book, get an expert in, and just make it happen. There is power in having an official state record that says this is what happened and this is what should be done versus a scholar academic in a university that testifies to some type of department or agency. There is something powerful, and Lisa Holder often talks about this kind of legal standard of having this state record that is official and held in different regard, that says this is the thing, right? This is the harm. These are the recommendations. Here's the process that we need to engage in to make this happen. And so I think there is something unique and even legally specific and powerful about having a state-approved official study and recommendation on this matter.
Okay, it's not moving me, Kevin. I'm sorry. I feel like we're allowing the governor to create an endless roadblock to progress on reparations. I don't understand why, if we're going to support the creation of a bureau, why a bureau wouldn't handle that. If you look at the Los Angeles Reparations Task Force, when they created their report, which is quite compelling and important, they went and partnered with Cal State Northridge. They didn't hand the whole department over to Cal State Northridge or say, study this indefinitely and we'll, let us know when you're done. They contracted or, partnered with those scholars under the authority of the Civil Rights Department within the city of Los Angeles. And to me, that makes a lot more sense than just, okay, hand off, take the ball and run with it.
Again, I can't disagree with you. I think that there are some weak spots here. When I was a young organizer, I read Kwame Ture and said politics is a game of strategic compromise. And I think this certainly moves us forward, but it's not perfect, right? And so I will not, tell you that is anything but true. What I will say is that, again, what we start off this conversation with is us showing up constantly and consistently is how we continue to refine this process, this country, the state. Trailer bills are a thing, right? There are always opportunities to amend things, to follow up, and make things better. And we see this all the time in the legislature. So I do think that some of these critiques are valid. And again, this is where I think we need to have a vigilant eye and continue to follow up, stay engaged, and continue to fix things and put them in a better direction if there are things that are going awry. So I think that you raise again, important piece, but the adding a sunset versus not having a thing at all, I think it's easier to wrap something up than to get something started. So if we can get it started, and work to improve the process, I think that puts us in a better position than not having something at all.
But it's not having something at all. It could live within the bureau. It could live within the bureau. A bureau can do a study. I think, to me, the task force is pretty clear on who qualifies for reparations. But if further study is needed, then it should happen within this bureau we're creating, not another piece over here. That's how I see it.
I agree. I think that, again, I think that's a place that we could follow up and say, hey, the bureau should actually oversee this process and be really working in partnership with Cal State and other genealogical societies and organizations. Again, I think those are fixes that we could easily make as long as we have SB 518. And I would also say, to your earlier point, we could easily see, not having some type of understanding of how eligibility should be rolled out as another excuse to not move. So I think these are also important hurdles, right, that we need to address to, again, prevent these kind of cop-out excuses of, well, we haven't really defined that, so we can't move on it, which is why also I think the sunset is an important piece.
Yeah. Okay, we're up against news, traffic, and sports. So far, Kevin Cosney, you're recommending the governor sign SB 518 and SB 437. We've got a lot to talk about, though. There's at least 5 of these, and that's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Former Republican Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger opposes California's Prop 50, warning voters to not let politicians redraw congressional maps.
So now they want more power to create more chaos and more negativity in California. So I just said, no, let's stop it right here.
He says Democrats want to pause the Independent Redistricting Commission to gain an edge, calling it two wrongs don't make a right. President Trump is calling for the arrest of Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, accusing them of failing to protect ICE agents. Johnson says he's not going anywhere, while Pritzker fired back, calling Trump a wannabe dictator. And Ghana's President John Mahama urged the UN to back reparations for slavery, calling it the greatest crime against humanity, and pushing for global recognition, restitution, and justice for African descendants. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Celebrating 100 years, Mount St. Mary's University LA is dedicated to moving your life and career forward. Earn your undergraduate or graduate degree and become unstoppable. Find out how at msmu.edu.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are back in the National League Championship Series for the 17th time in franchise history and the 6th time with manager Dave Roberts, the only African-American manager in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers scored on an error in the 11th inning to beat Philadelphia 2-1 and win the best-of-5 series. The Dodgers will play Milwaukee or the Chicago Cubs in the NLCS, which begins Monday. Milwaukee and the Cubs have a decisive Game 5 Saturday in Milwaukee. For the first time in LeBron's 23-year career in the NBA, he will miss a regular season opener. The 40-year-old LeBron has inflammation in the sciatica nerve, a nerve that stretches from the lower back to the legs and feet. LeBron will be out at least 3 to 4 weeks. He will miss the Lakers' regular season opener October 21st against Golden State. The Lakers have played 134 games without LeBron, winning only 41% of those games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Stop settling for weak sound. It's time to level up your game and bring the boom. Hit the town with the ultra-durable LG X Boom portable speaker and enjoy vibrant sound wherever you go. Elevate your listening experience to new heights because, let's be real, your music deserves it. The future of sound is now with LG X Boom. And for a limited time, save 25% at LG.com with code FALL25. Bring the boom. X Boom.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-259-9922. 800-259-9922. That's 800-259-9922.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
It is, and we're talking with Kevin Cosney. We're doing Freedmen Friday double header. Tiffany Quarles will be joining me next hour because the governor has till no later than Monday to sign or not sign, ignore and allow to become law or veto the reparations bills that are on his desk. Kevin Cosney is the associate director and co-founder of the California Black Power Network. So let's see, probably AB 7 is the other one that folks would consider controversial. I'm not sure why, but people do. It authorizes priority admissions for descendants of American chattel slavery to higher education institutions. Some folks say that's not reparations. And there are quite a few people within the movement, the reparations movement, that oppose this. Where are you on it?
Yeah, we certainly support. I question why anybody would oppose it. I certainly understand folks who feel like this isn't the hugest part of reparations. I know folks ultimately, when they think of reparations, they think about a check. We spent a lot of time talking about the UN principles that talk about, yes, compensation, but also restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and the cessation of harm and non-repetition as part of the full understanding of reparations. And so while this isn't compensation, and while this is only giving universities an option, again, I think it's an important step forward. And again, whether you think it's reparations or not, I don't know why you would oppose this. I think it is certainly a step forward if you want to see Black folks gaining access to higher education, which I think is always a positive.
Yeah, to me, it is reparations because it could possibly enshrine in law the category of descendants of American chattel slavery or freedmen into the legal framework of the United States of America, which could help us out when other things are challenged, whether it be a check or whatever. But however you see it, I don't see why we would not want to let more descendants of American chattel slavery get into universities. I think people don't support it because they're mad at Assemblymember Bryan. But to me, that's not a good reason to keep kids from having. And the other argument I've heard is that universities, it doesn't force them to do this. It says they can do this. But that's actually significant considering Prop 209, the anti-affirmative action law, at the moment makes it where they cannot do it.
Absolutely. Look, I was going to hold some of my points to continue the conversation, but we might be done with 87. You said all the things that I would want to uplift. And I think, one, holding some type of grudge against Assemblymember Isaac Bryan to the point where you would stop and block legislation that would have a positive impact on Black folks. It's absurd, right? And at that point, are we just operating off of emotion, or are we working off a strategy to improve the lives of Black folks, right? The point that you made, I think, is actually a really important one, and that I give a lot of credit to Assemblymember Bryan for, which is understanding that this is bigger than just university admissions, right? College admissions. That this is a test case to see if we can advance language that would really, as you said, kind of solidify an understanding of descendancy in different ways, which is, the main thing that some of these folks who have been opposing this have been pushing for. So in many ways, this is a response, right, to some of their advocacy, and I'm lost on why they wouldn't support this, because again, this is a step forward. To your point, it does start to push back on Prop 209. It does make significant gains that, again, can continue to be expounded upon, but certainly has a bigger implication legally, right, for these other categories that folks are seeking to establish.
What about Senate Bill 515? Again, this could be one that folks could say, well, it is not reparations, but it could support reparations. This is Laura Richardson. It gets the local governments to collect demographic data to disaggregate it for freedmen or Black African American populations. That's also in play here.
Yeah, I think that again, I maybe continue to question. I see understandings of why folks have questions of, where does this fall? Is this reparations? Is it something else? Again, whether it is or isn't, I don't think necessarily should impact whether you support it if it's good policy. Now, I think, again, this is something that folks, particularly in the ADOS movement or CJEC out here in California, have been pushing for, is this categorization. And I think that there are, right? We know that there are some unique experiences of folks who have descended from enslaved people here in the U.S. And so I think that tracking can be important and highlight unique differences, right? And we've always understood and actually had some alignment in understanding there are some unique differences. That shouldn't be a dividing line. We should understand that there also are impacts, right, of other Black folks in the diaspora. I think the one thing that I would say as we disaggregate is to be specific, right? I think this idea of, descendants or, Black Americans and everybody else, it can be, can miss a lot of important things, right? We know that there are many differences, right, of the many Black folks throughout the diaspora. And I think being able to track that, similar to the ways that API folks or Latinos are able to very distinctly, right, define and categorize the many kind of points of origin, national origin, I think is critical because we know that, an ambassador, a wealthy ambassador who immigrates here is different than a refugee who comes here, right? And so I think there's a lot of nuance and differences and unique circumstances that brings folks, Black folks from the Caribbean and from the continent here. And I think having a nuanced understanding of how all that works is helpful. Again, I think I'd want us to be cautious of not engaging in the kind of divide and conquer tactics that many seek to deploy amongst Black folks. But again, I think that those designations are things that particularly folks in the ADOS and CJEC world have been pushing for. I think, again, we want to see that done with nuance, that respects and identifies the various experiences of folks throughout the diaspora. So we have that level of detail as well.
Yeah. So what you're saying, go ahead and support 515, the disaggregated data.
Again, I think we want to be cautious of that. I don't think we've opposed that. Again, I think we want to make sure
you're not taking a position on it. You're not really taking a position on that one. Okay. It seems to me that
we haven't before.
I mean, it seems to me that the more data we have about what's happening with, descendants of enslaved persons, chattel slavery in this country, the better. It reminds me of, I think about what happened in Cuba when they decided to stop tracking that. And I know Cuba's different than the United States, but it's easy to pretend that there aren't disparate impacts when you don't have the information.
That's right. Yeah. More information is never a bad thing. Again, I don't think we took a position on it because we knew there were more, there are bigger structural fights, right? Things that we know would have a direct impact on the lives of Black folks. But again, more data, to your point, more information, I don't think is ever a bad thing. I'm reminded of the old commercials, right? Knowledge is power.
And then there's 742, which doesn't seem to be controversial, as some folks say, not reparations, but it would designate descendants of American chattel slavery for priority and professional licenses. Again, I would think establishing this category of persons who are eligible to get certain benefits, which is outside of a racial category, which is, I believe, what one of the main powerful arguments of the lineage movement has been.
That's right. I don't believe that is a bill that we took a position on. But again, I certainly wouldn't seek to oppose that. Again, I think that these types of conversations are important and critical to the point that you've made already. I can see why we would try to oppose that. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've heard, right, in regards to economic opportunity is again, being able to track how we're faring job-wise. And we know that's a huge issue, particularly in California, where there's so much work, building, construction happening in our communities, and our folks are not included often, right, in those jobs.
That's Assemblywoman El Hawade, who was not part of the CLBC when the August 31st disaster happened, but it's her stepping out as a freshman and coming up with something. When we continue this conversation, of course, we definitely want to talk about AB 62, Tina McKinner's bill, which is meant to create pathways for victims of racially motivated eminent domain to seek redress. We'll get your thoughts on that when we continue on KVLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that hits Black families hardest. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and it's not a normal part of aging. Early signs like repeating questions, missed appointments, even trouble handling bills might seem small, but they matter. The good news? There are treatment options available that may slow AD when diagnosed early. Don't wait. Visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Donald Trump has all but declared war on California, sending in a National Guard, blocking disaster relief, and cutting funds to our colleges. And now, he and Texas Republicans are trying to rig the next election by stealing congressional seats from Black voters in states like Texas.
They want to rig these elections, and they want the power that gerrymandering provides.
Seriously, look it up. But Prop 50 is how we fight back. It gives Californians the power to fight fire with fire and beat Trump at his own game. Prop 50 creates temporary emergency congressional maps that level the playing field and protect the power of Black votes. Not just in California, but across the country. Your vote matters, and the whole country is counting on California to lead. So use your vote to protect our power, our history, and our future. Vote yes on Prop 50 by November 4th. Ad paid for by Yes on 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, Governor Newsom's Ballot Measure Committee, Ad Committee's top funders, HMP for Prop 50, and Fund for Policy Reform.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk.
Connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Gavin.newsom@gov.ca.gov, gavin.newsom@gov.ca.gov, or 916-445-2841, 916-445-2841. Wherever you are on these things, you make up your own mind. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I certainly have my opinions, and you are gonna hear them when you tune into my show. Surprise! Kevin Cosney is with me. He is the Associate Director and co-founder of the California Black Power Network. Tina McKinnon has a bill, AB 62. It's meant to create pathways for people who have been stripped of their land by racially motivated eminent domain. Some say, again, not reparations. Some say, again, this is not exclusively to the benefit of descendants of chattel slavery. Other people who've been subjected to racially driven eminent domain seizures would also benefit. What are your thoughts on this?
Again, my main question is: is this going to benefit Black folks? Right? Somehow, some way, will it benefit Black folks? And I think the answer is yes. And I think this is an important bill. We were sad to see it get vetoed in the last cycle, and we're happy to see it come up again and support it. I think it's critically important.
Yeah, honestly, I was and continue to be really disappointed in the CLBC for tanking those bills. But when people do what they say they're going to do, which is we're going to bring some of these things back, you got to give credit. And I think McKinnon has basically brought back the Bradford bill here. And I think it needs to pass. It needs to be signed by the governor. It did pass. And again, this is where I would think that having him sign SB 518, so he can't say there's no bureau, there's no agency. He would need to sign both of those in order to overcome his own excuse for why he didn't support it last time.
That's right. Absolutely. Again, I think this is an important part of the kind of compensation and restitution part of reparations, and it directly addresses that. It might be a more expansive than just Black Californians, but again, I think it offers a pathway for us to benefit and repair some of the deep harms that have happened here in California around housing. We know housing of Black folks is one of the deepest areas and issues that we need to work on. And I think this is, again, moving us in a positive direction. And again, you gave the email address to Newsom. I think it's important that he hears from us and makes sure that he knows that he cannot afford to veto this and these other bills because it's a critical step forward. And he should know that Black Californians and Black Americans are going to be critical to any success he wants to see in the future, whether it's this current special election or any future ambitions that he may have. And we've been, again, continuing to push for these bills. If you follow us at Reparations Truth on social media, Instagram, and the like, you'll see we have a letter campaign so folks can continue to write the governor directly to make sure that he hears from us and knows that he cannot afford to dismiss the needs of Black Californians any further.
Right. So if you need help writing your letter, you guys have some templates. Where would they find that stuff?
If you follow us at Reparations Truth on social media, it's probably the easiest way to get it. It's usually in our link tree that folks can find in our profile biography. And there are letters that folks can send around a number of the issues that we talked about today.
What would be your priority out of everything reparations oriented that's on the governor's desk right now? What's the most important thing?
I think that there's so many. I think that there's been a few that we've prioritized. Again, I think 518 is critical. We saw that that was used, as you pointed out, as an excuse to veto other bills by not having some type of a structure that would oversee this process. So I think that is foundational and fundamental. I think these housing pieces, AB 62, AB 57, directly impact the issues that have been most impacting Black folks, particularly around housing. And again, I think that AB 7 is really critical, not only in starting to push back on Prop 209, the anti-affirmative action measure from years ago, but also, right, making a headway, right, in regards to how we're defining things in the reparations world.
AB 57, which would allocate a portion of home purchase assistance funds to first-time home buyers or descendants of American chattel slavery. We didn't talk about that, but it's also coming from McKinnon. And again, we have this category of people being defined by the legislature here.
That's right. That's right. Which again is something that many reparations advocates have been pushing for. And again, I think that California Black Power Network has always held a more expansive idea of who's been harmed in this country and the state. But I think this is important designations and will certainly lend itself to really critical information that will help us really define the problems and solutions that our communities need.
Yeah, and that's that's a conversation we should have. Maybe we need to have a little panel on that because, that's a point of conflict. Who's eligible? Who's been harmed? But designating specific things for freedmen or ADOS or FBA or descendants of American chattel slavery does not preclude other groups, Black folks who are here that are not, descendants of chattel slavery, from benefiting. So it's not really an either or, is it? I feel like the California Task Force navigated that rather well.
Absolutely, and that was our stance throughout the whole process. It's interestingly enough, we got some heat for it, right, by folks that had a much stricter understanding of eligibility along lines of descendancy and lineage. But our approach in that the whole time was to understand there are folks that are advocating for lineage, there are folks that are advocating for race-based. We see the points on both, and our approach was to have somewhat of a hybrid that honors both of those realities, that anti-Black racism, the human rights violations that Black folks at large have faced in this country and in this state, right, need to be addressed, need to be really researched, and we need recommendations that address all of that. And the real experience, right, of folks who have descendants from enslaved peoples in this country is unique and has its own particular harms that we need to address as well. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. I think we as Black folks can make both of those things happen while centering and putting at the forefront those who have experienced the most harm, while honoring and understanding that there is a broad harms, right, that many have experienced as well.
And to be clear, I think we all understand that we want to, maybe we don't, I understand that we want to cut the check. That, however, is not on the governor's desk at the moment. So what we're talking about today is what Governor Newsom has the opportunity to sign between now and Monday.
That's right. That's right. And 2026 is coming up soon, and we will continue to push put a check in many other things. Again, there are hundreds of recommendations that came from the task force. We know the check is a big one. We also know that some of these foundational pieces of creating, again, a body that can really drive this forward and identifying some of the language, right, and the legal definitions, right, I think are all going to be critical to really making sure that happens.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin Cosney, thank you so much for joining me this morning. You can find out more on social media at Reparations Truth.
Thank you very much.
Be joined by Tiffany Quarles with a different outlook on some of these bills when we come forward. We gonna know about them, though, by the time we're done with our Freedmen Friday. It's a doubleheader today on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Former Republican Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger opposes California's Prop 50, warning voters to not let politicians redraw congressional maps.
So now they want more power to create more chaos.